there are concerns. There are concerns. I mentioned that we're making this transition between the information age and the augmented age, and it is actually one of the shortest transitions we have experienced it. I feel like our souls, spirits, and psyches can actually feel it. Again, my first intro video was really about but it feels like there's just so much more, right, of just everything. And I feel like our spirits can actually feel this too. So that's one of the concerns, that this transition is happening very quickly. It means that there isn't enough time to create the regulations, the rules, to make sure that humanity is even just able to keep up generally, right? So that's one of the concerns. The second concern is really that imperialistic ways still rule the world. What does that mean exactly? So, there's this idea of social programming that we all go through. Call it culture, right? Call it social norms and social rules and all of that. But really, it's programming. It's what we learn from our parents. It's what we learn from school. It's what we learn from the media. It shapes the ideas that we have and the way that we see the world. And in my mind, imperialistic programming has been around, since the age of slavery and colonization. That's just the reality. You had countries taking over different societies, creating worlds, creating new countries, these kinds of things, designing countries, if you will. And imperialism is really about power, influence, control, and money. And if you think about those ideas, they still really drive the way that we move, right? Many of our societies are individualistic. You have some that are still collectivist, but even at that, they're still focused on how can you get as much money? How can you get as much control, right? Influence, these things. And I think in parallel, you now have an economic system. So you have the programming, and then you have the economic system that really shapes. We have resources. Resources are scarce. We learn this in basic economics. And capitalism now says within this market-based economy, focused on people, individuals, private organizations, right? Promotion of competition. It's really about the dynamics of just supply and demand. So you have this capitalistic economic system that we operate within, and then you have our social programming that's based on imperialistic programming, basically. You put those two things together and you see where we are. Big tech is really the one running our world right now, right? If we really, really break it down. The last thing I would say in terms of why there's a concern around all this tech is that we have no collective vision. Tech is driving the narrative right now. And the narrative that really is taking shape are for the rest of us trying to figure out what will happen. You have ideas around, is AI just going to take over all of us? So that's like the Terminator mentality. It's just going to take over. So that's one narrative or one story that's out there. The other one is that jobs are just gone, right? So many jobs will be gone. So that's the thing that's catching headlines. Job loss, jobs are going away, all of this. And that humans will suffer because jobs today, they're connected to livelihood, meaning we work so that we can live. But if there are no jobs, right? And it means that we won't have the ability to live, that's when people start getting concerned. The last one then is really around inception. So again, in place of having a collective vision for society on where we're headed now with this technology, inception is what comes to people's minds. Are we going to get programmed by big tech to do whatever they want? I mean, look at social media, look at algorithms today. They're low-grade forms of that. So you can understand why people are actually concerned about this technology. Again, the three reasons are really because it's moving faster than it's ever been, right? Any major age before it. Imperialistic programming really still rules. And because of that, there's concern about how this technology will be used. So people have to fill in the gaps with their own narratives. And that's where Terminator comes into play. That's where the jobs are gone, clickbait comes into play, and then inception. So last point really is around, we've traded financial wealth for health and community. If you remember, from one of my previous episodes, AU, African Union, 54 countries, China, and India, they have about the same population size, 1.5 billion people. And remember, total global population is 8 billion people. So most people live between Africa, again, 54 countries, China, and India. Okay, so as you can see though on this slide, In China and the EU, 9 out of 10 people will die from a lifestyle disease. Like, what? How is that possible? Something that can be prevented, heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and even many forms of cancer, 9 out of 10 people will die. China added 2 times Africa's entire GDP. 2 times. That's $6 trillion in the last 7 years. But look at what they traded for that development. In Africa, the number is less than 4 out of 10 people that will die from a lifestyle disease. Now, don't get me wrong. We have in Africa some other health-related challenges, right, that are pretty critical, that are being worked on. But when it comes to lifestyle, diseases that can be prevented, we have that going for us in addition to deep community-oriented cultures. So that's the cost of development. You trade financial wealth, right, with a side of loneliness and lifestyle diseases for health and community. Is it worth it? I would say that it's not worth it, right? But I want to break that down in the next episode. So we're actually going to talk a little bit more about this. We're going to put Africa in context. We're going to talk a little bit about what any society needs to thrive. There are 3 things any society needs to thrive. So I want to talk about that. And more importantly, how can we reduce the cost of living for everyone, increasing wealth for everyone? Meantime, check out the petition. I have a petition at chinyere.co. I would love your support. Join me in the next episode where we're going to talk about this and more. Thanks.